Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the People Man Talks podcast, and I'm your host, Emanuel Solomon, the People Man. And I'm an interpersonal skills coach. I actually help high-performing professionals of color to promote and reposition through increasing their cultural, emotional intelligence. So I have a passion for helping high-performing professionals of color. And today we have a special guest. You know, I just have to introduce this next guest. Her name is Monique Serrell Taylor, and she is a dynamic, high-performing professional of color. She works in project production and project management. She's a consultant. She's an entrepreneur. She does it all. Okay. And I just want to, first, she has a huge list, a large list of things that she's accomplished, has over 15 years experience in the marketing field. She's worked in promotion. Really, the industry that she's focused on right now is entertainment and music. She knows a lot of the people that you wish you knew from entertainment and music. We won't even name drop right now, but I just want to have a warm welcome for Monique Serrell Taylor. Everybody, she's on the show.
Yes.
People, man.
You gave me all the accolades. I'm gonna take them all and receive everything you gave me today.
receive it. Be blessed. Be blessed. Okay. So you know, I've known Monique for a few years, and if I can just, if it's cool to keep calling you Mo.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Because you know, I've known her for a number of years, but it's mostly been through different social circles. And in the last few years, I've gotten a chance to really get to know Mo and who she is. And one of the things that I always see as consistent, no matter where she's at, is that she has an amazing attitude. Like, it doesn't matter whenever I see her, she has a smile on her face, she has a positive attitude, and she's connecting with somebody. So that's one of the things that I just wanted to let you know. And I appreciate that about you as a person.
I appreciate you saying that. That tells me you don't see me very often. No, I'm just.
Oh,
No, I try.
Okay.
I appreciate that. No, I love to be viewed that way, and I hope that I do come across that way.
Where do you think you get that from? Where is that from? Is that?
You know, so it's really funny. At a young age, it clicked for me. I was 16 years old. I'll never forget. And my goal was to meet as many people as possible. So I had this analogy that was said, if I meet as many people as possible, then I can do whatever I want to do in the world, because in my mind, the world was based around who you know, right? And not that you didn't need skill sets and things like that, but if you knew somebody that could help you get your foot in the door, or you knew somebody that could help you navigate this way, you could do whatever you wanted. And so, you know, somebody once told me, you never know who your next boss will be. And it stuck with me. So my goal is just to be as kind and as gracious and, you know, as open to everybody as possible, so that, you know, one day you never know where it will lead you. You never know what moment you're in right now will lead to your next moment. And so I say thank you when you say that, because my goal is to come across that way. And so I appreciate that. Yeah.
That's tight. So it's on purpose. It's good because it's a habit, obviously, that you developed. A lot of people don't actually understand the importance of being open to people and connecting with people, and not being, you know, one way with this person, and you know, really valuing
people. You people are kind, right? Like, I naturally am a giving person. That's who I am internally. Okay. But I had to make a conscious decision at a young age, as a young girl, to genuinely be happy for my friends, right? We grow up wanting to, like, cheer each other on and have friends and things like that. And then internally, like, young women were battling, like girls are battling with each other, and you're secretly jealous, and you're secretly, you know, wishing that they didn't evolve, or they didn't get that because you didn't get it, or whatever the case is. And I made a decision at a young age to say, like, I want to genuinely be happy for my friends, right? And if I feel like I'm not, then something is going on with me. And so I think it just kind of rolls off and becomes, it naturally does happen. I mean, I am that person. But you also have to make a conscious decision to say, like, sometimes you gotta check yourself. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
Sometimes you gotta
yeah,
check yourself
yeah,
and and work
yeah.
on yourself if you're not genuinely happy for the people around you.
So, I mean, it's kind of hard to describe you and what you do because you're so multifaceted. You have so many different things that you're doing, so many projects you're working on,
Yeah.
so many ventures, so many endeavors. And so has that always been a part of who you are? Have you always had your hand in multiple pots?
Always, always. Always. I have always had two jobs. You know, I started working when I was 12 years old at a daycare, right? I've always done multiple things. And really, when people say, like, what do you do? I tell people I connect people, right? I am a connector. I produce and I project manage. I do all of those things, but I really just make it happen. And that is kind of what I want to be known for, right? And at the end of the day, you get the job done. It doesn't matter what it is. And so that's why I always wear so many hats. When people say, what is it that you do? It's really, you just make some shit happen and you get it done. And by any means necessary, like we're going to figure it out. And so people always say, well, you always say we're going to figure it out. But I mean that, right? Because I feel like everything can be figured out and we'll find a way. So I do consult. And that is a big part of it. I do a lot of production management, a lot of project management around live shows, live events, and branding. There's just a lot that happens along those ways.
Okay. Well, where can we find you? Where your Twitter, your social media. Where can we find you? The causes that you want to promote. This is the time to do that. So where can we find you at?
You guys pray for me. I'm going to be better on social media. Right now, I'm big on Instagram. So I want to get my Instagram. So my goal is they clicked. I never wanted any friends on Instagram because I didn't care. But now I'm like, I got to get my Instagram followers up. So that's my new thing. So you can find me. It's under Monique Serrell. And Instagram wouldn't let me change it when I got married to my new name. But so it's under Monique Serrell, my first and last name. And
how do you spell that?
it's Monique. Last name is Serrell.
Okay, that's Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah, I mean, I have a LinkedIn, and I'm under Monique Serrell, I think. Maybe
Yeah.
Monique Serrell Taylor on LinkedIn, and then on Facebook, I'm under Monique Taylor. But I don't use Facebook as much. I use that to stay connected to my family.
Okay.
And then I found out a new trick where if anything I upload to Instagram, it'll just automatically take it over to Facebook. So that's how I stay connected on Facebook because I never check it.
Well, what about the website? Do you want to promote your website as well? Your blog,
Yeah, well, so I'm working on a new website for me. I work for a social impact agency that kind of utilizes sports and entertainment to kind of impact work. And so I recently wrote a blog, and that's what I sent you, and it's on plus1society.com. And if you go to plus1society.com, you click on the blog. I recently wrote a blog that just talks about impact. They asked me to write about something about how I connect with the agency that I work for, and it's really through impact work. And that's just a passion of mine, something I've always done, no matter where I've worked or what I've done in the world. It's been to change something, change somebody's narrative, give back to a community. It's really just to, change it one moment, one event at a time. So
that's tight.
yes,
That's really tight.
blog.
And so all those viewers who don't know, my name is Emanuel Solomon, with Emanuel Solomon Training and Coaching. Some people know me as the People Man. This is the People Man Talks podcast. And really, I'm about uplifting people of color and first Black people, because I'm a Black man. And so I want to make sure that that's known. And I'm not apologetic about my Blackness. I'm not apologetic about uplifting my people first, because I understand there's different systems of whiteness that have made it uncomfortable for you to talk about your own people, your own achievement, your own success, your own autonomy, your own independence. And that to me is ridiculous. and I'm breaking that, at least for me and those who I'm leading. And so with this show, we want to uplift high performing professionals of color. And Monique is a high performing professional of color. She's not going to tell you everything that she's doing, but she's doing her business, her different projects and ventures at a very, very high level. And we want to support Black people that are doing that. It has to be a habit. Okay, it can't just be a feeling. And this is one thing that I talk about with cultural emotional intelligence, is you have to be able to um, make decisions after the feelings are gone, after the feeling
Oh
is
my gosh.
moved. And so right now, if you're listening to this, you want to support, her because you're supporting you. When you're, if you're a Black or brown person, and somebody who's Black or brown is has similar viewpoints, or at least a commonality that they want to uplift their people, then you have to do your part. And sometimes that's just, liking a page, or sometimes that's going to a website, and sometimes that's giving your dollars, supporting them with your dollars. That's a huge thing. So, we want to make sure that we're supporting her and her business ventures. So go check out Monique Serrell, okay, or Monique Serrell Taylor, and go to the Instagram and make sure that her following is huge. So we're gonna do that, okay?
Appreciate that.
All right. So next, okay, and this is really important, is uh, we want to start diving into who you are as a person. We want to start diving into some of those deeper things that made you who you are. I want you to tell us your story. Like, what is it? Who are you? Like, besides for the producer and the entrepreneur,
Yeah.
what made you who you are today?
It's funny, and because people, I think, see where you're at in life, and then they just assume things. But I tell people I check all the boxes. There's this barriers checklist, right? I check
Mhm.
all the barriers on that checklist, meaning, I grew up in a household that was a drug house, or they were selling and using drugs out of. Both my parents have been incarcerated. I um, lived in a house where there was abuse happening. I have there's so many things, right, that says if you check all these barriers on this list, right, statistics say you are going to go up, and then you are now going to do all of these things, right? And meaning you are going to, take away from society, or you are going to find yourself in trouble because you were affected by all of these things. And my mother had always told me, like, that is no excuse to be a crappy person in life. Like, there's no
Mhm,
way. Like, it
mhm,
doesn't matter if
mhm.
you checked all these lists on this barrier. That doesn't mean that you continue or be affected by that. You can be amazing in life. And so she really kind of helped me understand that. And
Mhm,
and
mhm.
so I'm super thankful for it. But yeah, I grew up in the neighborhood just like everybody else. I'm from Portland, so if you're from Portland, and you're familiar, I told you I've lived on every corner in Portland. I've lived on 11th and Fremont, 12th and Fremont, 33rd and
And this
Alberta,
was before
1st
it was
and
white. I mean, Portland was always a little, I mean, it was always white, but we had Black communities. Understand that, right? Like right now, you're not going to understand that based off of gentrification. You're going to be
You
like,
would not
wow.
know. You would say those are the areas that you want to live in today. Those are not the areas you wanted to live in the 80s. And
Right,
so
right,
uh,
right.
my mom tells me this to this day. So I'm mixed. My mom is white, my father is Black, and my mom told me somebody's going to be uncomfortable, right? And so she had a choice to make. We could live in Lake Oswego with all the white people, we were going to be uncomfortable, or she was going to live in the hood with all the Black people, or she was going to be uncomfortable. And so she said she had
Hmm.
to make a choice. And so we grew up in the neighborhood that reflects our skin tone, and she wanted us to know our culture and be able to, really embrace that.
That's
So
huge, because a lot of, this is my experience personally. I've seen a lot of what we would call either white or Caucasian mothers that do not embrace the father's culture or ethnicity, and so that child loses their identity so quickly.
yeah,
and they don't know who they are, and it becomes very hard to for them to stand in who they are in their own identity as being black, as being mixed, or whatever you want to use for that. But
Yeah.
how
I
has that
think the
contributed
difference is
to your success? Like, how has your mom, embracing, or not necessarily embracing, but just um, allowing you to be, grow up around people that look like you? How did that impact your
so
success?
she didn't come from white privilege. So let's just be real clear. She grew up very, very much below the poverty level. And she left home at 15. So, and abusive home and all of that. So she grew up very much different. And then I think when people think, oh, you have a white mother and you have all these things you can call your grandparents, that was not her story.
Mm-hmm.
And so she understood that survival, like, this is what it takes. And so, she made some decisions in her life. And I think when you say what's part of your story is, at a young age, my mother went to jail for some years. And about a month after my mom went to jail, my father passed away. He was sick at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so my brother and I, for those who don't know, I have a twin. I have a twin brother. So there's two of us in this world running around in these streets. But we we were going to be split up and go into foster care.
Mm.
And my mom's sister, my aunt, took us in for 4 years while my mom was incarcerated. So and then we moved back with her when she
Mm-hmm.
got out.
So what type of mindset did you have to have? Because I mean, you're going through these different changes in your life. I mean, these are huge changes. These, like, when people, like, for me, I'm not gonna compare um divorce to being incarcerated, or having your parents incarcerated. But what I am gonna say is that, personally, when my parents got divorced, that was a huge um uh, traumatic event in my life. And we have these traumatic events that we sometimes we don't have time to really process, or understand. And people kind of brush past them. And sometimes we brush past them because we're like, oh, we got to go, or we got to be tough, or whatever. But these are huge. Like, if
Yeah,
your mother is incarcerated at this point in your life, and
yeah,
your father dies, so you have like no parental
yeah,
structure at this point.
at all. And let me tell you, I tell people all the time. People are like, "Oh my gosh, and but you lived in this. All these things were happening. We
Mhm.
went to go live with my aunt. It was worse. Like, we might as well have just been on our own. And so and so
Mhm.
I, you battle through these things, but you get through it. And when my mom came home, she was like, you don't steal, you don't do drugs, you don't lie, you don't cheat, like none of these things.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so she stuck that, and taught she taught us street smarts. She said, if you don't learn anything in this world, you don't learn nothing from school, you will learn street smarts on how to navigate and know what's going on so you can make those decisions. Because I think oftentimes young people are influenced, right? And so if you don't know what's happening, people are doing drugs next to you, you don't really know what that is. And so it's not as big a deal. So she was
Mhm.
like, let me tell you this is what they're on. You see those people and why they look like this? That's what type of drug they do. And
Right. Right.
and she would make sure that we knew and understood that so that we could make a conscious decision to not be around it or to know,
Mhm. Mhm.
so I'm super thankful for it. She's one of my best friends. I mean, she's incredible. She completely turned her life around. And I won't tell you what her crime is. You'd be like, oh my God. So she did some major stuff. So
Mhm. Mhm.
but she's crazy. We live 6 blocks from each other, and we're best friends. So
That's
she's awesome.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
a story of, pain and challenge, and overcoming.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of people, they don't, and they're not able to, with what they know, and their circumstances. So even though, as Black and brown folks, we go through these things, uh, we shouldn't have to. And our current situation is that, because of these circumstances and this situation of our social positioning, we have to make do. And sometimes, with that, we can even go better than we can do better than make do, and we can strive for significance, and we can strive for um, what I call legacy, and having a higher this is the you probably hear all the stuff
Yeah,
outside, but
you in the neighborhood.
yeah, but basically having that higher standard. How did that come
You
later in
know,
your life, or where did that come from?
I tell people, like, I am Black. I am unapologetically Black. I strive for Black excellence. And that came from both of my parents, even though both of them are not Black. My mom was like, you need to know your history. You need to understand where you came from. You need to learn how to navigate all of these different things that may or may not be used as barriers against you as you get older. And so that mindset of excellence came. I don't know if it came really at an early age, but it came as like you grow up poor, right? I grew up poor. I didn't have nothing. And so
Mm-hmm.
everything
Mm-hmm.
I had to work for, right? And so I had jobs at a really young age, and I would go to work, and I'm like, these people that are managing stuff, like, I could run circles around them. Like, I would figure things out way before the people above me, my supervisors, my managers would. And so there was just this level of like, if I just work really hard, like, I could do that. Like, I could have that job. And I think that that level of excellence comes from just wanting to be better, and not necessarily take everybody's job or anything like that, but understanding that, like, I can do anything that anybody else could do. And it's, yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I answered your question quite.
Well, I think part of it was the fact that what I heard is that you found out that you were just as amazing, if not better, than the people who were working above you. And this is the thing that a lot of Black and brown professionals struggle with is they realize that their talent level, their ability, supersedes their counterparts, yet they're in subordinate or inferior positions, or they don't promote or they don't advance at the same rates as their white counterparts, and they're frustrated. And some of that frustration in their inability to cope with these emotions hinders their success, and their inability to have the right people skills and understanding of who they are. It really can hurt them. And so I think part of what you said earlier was, one, you started to figure out who you were, and you also figured out what you can do. And when you figure out who you are and what you can do, you are dangerous.
Yeah.
And so I think you really answered that question, at least for me.
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
but I want to go into this. I want to go into right now in your life. What are you most passionate about personally? And then I'm gonna ask you professionally. So first, I want to know what are you most passionate about in your life right now personally? What's your personal passion? The thing that's excited.
My family, I think building, I want to build like a legacy of my own, right? And just around my family, my friends, the people that I interact with day to day. I think that's personal for me, is being able to teach, I have stepdaughters, but like my stepdaughters that, this is how you want to carry yourself. This is the type of woman that you want to be. You want to make those
Can I
consequences.
interject real quick?
Yeah,
You're recently married, right?
I am. We're going on 2 years, but
Okay. Oh, that's recent. That's
27
recent.
27 years in our lives
So
together.
congrats though, because this is important. And so you recently got married 2 years ago. You're starting a family, so you're excited about your family. I just wanted to make sure that Black marriage is important. So I wanted I wanted to shout it out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
It is important, and it's important to know what you're getting into. And so for us, it was incredible because we dated at a young age of high school. We're 13, 14 years old, and my husband's name is Mike. And so then Mike, he moves in a few years, and moves up to Washington, and we become best friends, and we stay connected and are best friends our entire lives. So we are each other's like voices of reason. We are crazy. And then when we, kind of tried to date on and off, but as we recently recent years got back together, we made that decision. And so it came from understanding who we were. We knew each other's past, we knew what we were getting into, and we were really respectful about it. So, entering into Black marriages and into blended families, you want to make sure that you communicate that things are happening. So the first phone call we made was to the mother of his oldest daughter. And so,
Okay.
we wanted to let her know. We wanted to be really respectful. He called my brother. We have known each other for so long that, we didn't want it to be weird, So we felt like we made some really good choices around that. And I think that's really been helpful for us in our marriage. So.
Relationships.
Yeah.
And the fact that within relationships, you made some steps before the issues started. You took the initiative and said, like, let me water this relationship from the jump so that this other person knows, where my heart is and my intent, which means that you led with love, right? And that's huge, and you're seeing some reward from that.
Yeah. So it is awesome. People are like, how's marriage? How's quarantine? Because, we've been stuck in this house together for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But it's been incredible. I would do it all over again. So, so we're happy with it. We communicate. He's an over communicator. So I'm the one that's tripping, it's like, go on. Somewhere. So, so he helps me with that. So it works out. We communicate about everything, and we accept each other, and we allow each other to do what we want to do. So there's no, if that's what you want to do, go do that. We support each other in it. So that's been incredible. And that's, so I think difficult for people. You have this idea of what's right, what's not right in relationships in general. And so we've been able to say, like, no, I like to go over here and do this. I like to go do that, so.
Okay. Well, what about what is the most passionate thing that professionally for you right now? What's get you up in the morning?
I am trying to impact this world in some way, and it sounds so cliche, but it's like I wake up to impact, and impact looks so many different ways, and it can happen through a movement. It can happen through an event that you host. It can happen through a conversation that me and you are having today, and somebody hears it and they are able to change maybe the way they think about something, the way they operate, something that changes the world for the better and for Black people in the world. So I say people, but really, like, the impact work that I really strive to do is in communities of color. It is in marginalized populations. It is, folks that are struggling with whatever barriers that they have, and being able to remove some of those and say, like, we're here, we can work through this thing. We got this. We in this together.
Right.
And sometimes people want to do that. So I say it looks different everywhere. I have done impact work my whole life, and it just looks different each time. So professionally,
getting back to her community, everybody, that's important. Okay. And then not only that, but when I think about black and brown, these terms, like we hear these terms that marginalized or whatever the case is, the people that need the most help are Black and brown people, period.
Yeah.
Socially, when we're looking at global white supremacy, and we're looking at the control, destruction, and domination of all non-white people on systemic levels, on personal levels, on all these different levels, Black and brown people need the most help, period. So with that being said, she talked about the fact that she has a passion for helping communities of color. And so you can expand on that. I just had to say that because sometimes people, they don't really understand. They mix our struggles, they mix our pain in order to lessen it or devalue it. And I'm just not gonna do that on this show. So so I gotta make sure that we, that people.
And how do we attack these cultural issues, together? And there's not one right way. Right now, I work for an agency, and we are working on a large campaign that is around incarcerated individuals, and primarily incarcerated individuals of color. We've been able to partner with the NBA. We've been able to partner with large folks in the entertainment industry and really leverage sports and entertainment to create an impact and to create conversations and bring awareness and bring light to folks of color that are struggling right now. And when you think about the incarceration rates of Black people in Black communities, it's, I mean, you can look the numbers up yourself. I mean, it's through the roof, right? And so, it's
by design.
Yeah, it's by design, and so working to change policy. So I recently, when you asked me that question, I tell people all the time, what do you want to do? And I say, I want to start to change policies, and I'm not quite sure how to do that. But more recently, the rooms I've been in and the campaigns I've been working on, the things I've been doing have allowed for some policy change. And when I say policy change, I mean like changing around laws, right? So I think about the three strikes law around incarcerated individuals who, you know, were just based on, you stole a piece of gum, you jaywalked, and maybe you did something you weren't supposed to do. Maybe you got in a fight and you was doing something somewhere you weren't supposed to be. But regardless of what it is, 3 strikes, you go to jail for 20 years, right? And just the longevity of what folks are getting in prison is just crazy. And it hits home because I think about my mom, and my mom, you know, she had several accounts of felony charges, and she could have easily gotten 20 years, right? And she only did 4. And so I think about that, right? Like, she learned her lesson. She's an incredible person today. So I think about the people I've met. I've been in a lot of prisons lately. Maybe that's why. I've been in like 6 or 7 of them in the last few months, and just meeting individuals that, you know, don't necessarily need to be there any longer. I believe in second chances for all people, but really if people of color also. So,
right.
And there's a lot of wrongfully accused folks based on race and color. Just, you know, we're in the 2000s, but I don't know when you were born, Emanuel, but I mean, I don't know. I was born in the 80s. So, you know, the laws were different.
I'm not going to tell you exactly, but I was born in the 80s.
The world was different.
You need to know I'm young looking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The world was different. And I think about those lessons my mom would teach me, but she would tell me, she was like, slavery wasn't that long ago, okay? This was like discrimination when people are racist in this world. And let me tell you, like, it's while I'm alive, right? It's while you're alive. And so she would bring it into a perspective for me. And so that's, I think, where I was like, dang, this wasn't a couple 100 years ago, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really like challenge professionals and people of color to look at that on a deeper level, because I don't believe that slavery went away. I just think it changed forms. And so, you know, the slavery that we're experiencing is a psychological slavery reinforced by violence, which has always been what white supremacy is about. But now it's so almost perfect, almost intricate in the way how it destroys us through so many different avenues and through so many different doors and channels. But that the psychology of the mind is really passion of mine, you know, really understanding like the interpersonal parts of who we are. And so I see that for me at least, and my message is the detangling of whiteness from our minds, and seeing ourselves from a white lens, and also feeling inferior even when we are doing great work and even when we are doing good things. And I have to catch myself, and I realize that some of these things were ingrained in me before I even had conscious thought. And so, like, there's a great book out, post-traumatic slave syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy, and we can start to understand that, look, trauma is passed down through the womb, generation after generation of trauma after trauma. So we're dealing with that, but everybody's just telling us hey, suck that up and keep going. If you keep going and you don't start realizing what's going on, you just pass it down to your kids, and
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. It's so funny. People, it's generation after generation. And my father was much older than my mom. My father was 20 years older than my mom. So when I think I'm only one generation away, right? Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
my father lived this, was his life,
Mm-hmm.
and was born in 1939. So 38, 1938. So,
Okay.
it's not, it's a lot, right? And for me to be so young, I'm gonna call myself young, and but to have a father that old, so it's
Mm-hmm.
very, yeah, he had us in his early 40s. So um, we're not that many generations away from all of
Right.
it.
Right.
And so I actually just recently listened to one of your training sessions. It was really great, by the way.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
and so I see how you start to talk about that. So can I ask you a question on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So because I was able to listen to it, I was like, oh man, where do you and when do you teach these trainings on just Black excellence and changing your mindset and understanding your history and your culture?
Well, right now I've been actually putting short trainings out on my website. Everybody, you can go to emmanuelsolomon.com. But there's a lot more to come. And so we're going to get you guys that content that you need. There was a few trainings that I did. There's one that I did with Multnomah County a while back, the Leading with Race conference. And I really started talking about the term that I coined, which is cultural emotional intelligence, which is that intersection between cultural ethnicity and emotional intelligence. And so I felt like we needed something different. Like we needed uh, the same old whitewashed terms and ideologies. We have to change that. Not saying that none of the research that was done by white people is not sufficient. Not what I'm saying is that there's a blind spot, and there's a blind spot, and that blind spot in whiteness is the part that we have to make up through knowing who we are as people. And once we find that spot, we can start controlling more of our destiny through becoming who we really are, and also in navigating people better, because it's about people. And I think you found that out at a young age, that it's like, hey, it's about your relationships.
It's about, yeah, thank you for that. Wait, tell me the website one more time.
EmanuelSolomon.com. And you guys
.com.
can go check out, my video podcast is on YouTube. You go to Emanuel Solomon on YouTube, and then you can find it all on my website, though, EmanuelSolomon.com.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think you touched on something. It's about people skills, and I think as a culture, sometimes where we fall short is we may be more intelligent. We may have all the skills to be the manager or know what our supervisor or person, the owner is doing. And we may have, be more skilled at it, but it takes those people skills, right? How do you navigate that? How do you navigate that? That's not offensive. That's not, doesn't come across super arrogant, that doesn't, there's
Mm-hmm.
all these things that I think as a culture we have to that we have to overcome sometimes. And it's difficult. You can't, and I've worked in rooms where I've been the only Black person. I worked in radio for 5 years, and I used to sit and I sold advertising at the for majority of it. So I was a marketing manager, and I would sit in these boardrooms, and I think there was two of us that were Black in the room, and so we would sit, majority white men,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a few other folks in the room, but it was like, I know my idea is good, like I
Mm-hmm.
know this, but
Mm-hmm.
they would just think like they had it all figured out, and so it would just go on deaf ears. And so I had to figure out a way, like, how do I share this great idea? Because one, it was good, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna make you some
Right.
money.
Right.
That's the
Right.
goal.
Y'all need to listen right now.
In a
Yeah.
way where you hear me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only that you hear me, but that you respect me and that you
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that I was able to share this. And so um, it took a lot of practice, right? I couldn't just be like, well, this is a good idea and y'all need to do this, that, and the other. I had to figure that out. And I don't know if everybody goes through that, but I know that in my experience of being a woman of color, I find myself having to figure out, how do I navigate a room where they hear me?
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't just in that moment. That's been in several moments that I've had in my life. Is, okay, this is really good. Like, how do I say it? How do I deliver it in a way where I'm not trying to, overshadow somebody else's idea. I'm not trying to show somebody up, and that they hear me and receive it the way that it's intended. So
It's influence, and it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And a lot of people don't understand that about communication is it's not what you said. I mess up so much sometimes with my wife because it's
that
I'll say
attitude.
I'll say something, my energy is off, my emotion is off. It's
Yes, that energy.
not the words that you say, it's how you say it. And so and I'll let everybody know, I'm not perfect in this, but I know a lot of the principles that are going to help you create success and influence with people, so that when you go to these rooms, they hear you, and you know how to create leverage. And a lot of people, they don't know what leverage is or how to create leverage so that people will hear you, and also building relationships at the
Yeah.
same time. It's a skill. It's really a skill.
I
And
love that you said, you touched on the principles, and it was, we were going to church, which means we was watching church this last Sunday, and our pastor was like, if it's not a principle, it's an opinion. And I was like, oh, that's good. Let me write this down somewhere.
yeah,
So I'm written down. If it's not a principle, it's an opinion, written down. But I agree. And I think that you put in place principles in your life that just will help guide you. They will help take you to the next level. And that's what's gotten me when people ask me, like, how do you get where you're at? I put in some principles, like, and I am intentional about them. I show up when I say I'm going to show up. I like always do what I say I'm going to do. And I say always with the intent to always do it. Sometimes
yeah,
there's some,
yeah.
but if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's what my husband, it'd be like, why are you telling people we're going to do that? Because now we got
Yeah,
so now we got to go do it.
exactly.
And so it's just, I always answer the phone. I always wanted to be the person that you could call at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was going to answer that phone and I was going to show up and be there. And that was the type of person I wanted to be for others. And so that was one of those principles that I put in place, was just showing up, doing what I say I was going to do, and and always answering the phone. And so,
Let me ask you this, because we're going on, what you're doing is talking about kind of the principles that you live by. I want to move into more of your talents. Like what do people say that that you consistently do well? Like you see that across different areas. What are some of your strength areas?
connecting people. I would say that is what I do well. That is what I do, right? And that is it's a strength of mine. I think it's a strength of mine because I've been able to meet so many people because I started at a young age of really trying to create positive relationships. And so being able to connect somebody with somebody else for whatever reason, to buy a car, to buy a house, to find somebody to come out and fix something, right? Or to kind of some more fun things, right? So my girlfriend that I actually work for now used to work at the NFL Network, and so she would create these really large events. She does sports. I used to do music, and so she would always need a musical talent, and so I would help book all of her talent on the music side for all of her Super Bowl events, which is a really large platform. And so I say connecting people, but it doesn't need to be just small things. It was really big. She would call me and say, who do we got? Who do we know? And so this last Super Bowl party or event that she did, I was able to connect with a good friend of mine who manages T.I. He manages Ludacris. He does a bunch of work with several people. And so we booked them. They showed up, and we got to go and hang out and party. And it's all fun. And you get to see the highlights of all of these things. So it's really cool. But it was about, I created a good relationship with their manager. We stayed in contact. We stayed connected.
Relationships, y'all.
Huh?
I said relationships, y'all. But
yeah, it was a good relationship. And then, we booked that. So positive relationships are really it. And I've been able to really leverage that and do it on a high level. And when I say high level, it's just bigger, right? Bigger platforms between music and artists or, athletes that I think people get excited when they see like hear celebrities and things like that.
I
So
know I do. I get excited too. I want.
yeah, so that I would say that's what that's what I do. But I really I consult, and so for me, I say connect people, but I consult, and I do a lot of like live show productions and campaign ideations and marketing and doing things like pop-up events. And I specialize in diversity, equity, inclusion. That's the new buzzword around the world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Diversity, equity, inclusion. How do you include that, and how do you make it meaningful for your culture, and how do you show up?
So you're a connector. You're able to connect people. You're able to build relationships.
I'm called a consultant if you want to be really professional with it,
Okay.
but whatever. I
Yeah,
connect
yeah.
people. I got good relationships.
You got
So
great relationship skills, and you use those relationships skills in your business ventures, in your work, your project management, um, and also it comes from a heart, of wanting to connect with people. Like like really, I think like long term, it doesn't last. Um, unless you really start to adopt those principles, those philosophies of like loving people, caring about people, of
yeah,
loving yourself, of loving culture. And that's really important as well. Is like, when we're talking about ourselves, I don't think that you can love yourself and not love your culture. I think that those two things are
yeah,
included. And a
yeah,
lot of us as Black
absolutely.
and brown folks, we're struggling with that because of these effects of white supremacy, psychologically, is that we want to try to love ourselves and hate our culture, and it doesn't work. It's like there's an inconsistency. It's a
You gotta love
conflict,
it all, take it all. And
right?
I receive, I give it all to me. I receive it all because
Yeah.
it's who you are. It makes me who I am. And so funny. I was thinking about this morning before we hopped on the call because I know all these people, right? And I know some really big names and all of that stuff. And I think, I got some good relationships. So I'm like, oh, we friends. But this one, I got a text, and that's just a random message. And I don't know if you guys know who Duke Tango is, but he, for content, he used to and still does be the big host of all the And One, that crazy guy that would run around and give
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
the
yeah.
cool names and be on the mic. Okay, so we've been working with Duke lately. So he texts me right before this, and he's just like, "Hey, lady, I hope you're doing well. Things are good my way. Just checking on you. Like, God bless." And I was like, "Oh, like we really are friends," because I think we're friends.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
But I think I'm like, I try not to say that lately when I say, "Oh, that's my friend," but when people start to check on you, and you're like, "Okay, I really do live in this other world of things," and
Hmm.
so it kind of just brings it back to my mind, like, okay, now I need to reach out to some people and make sure I'm checking out some people, because
Yeah.
all the way in New York, and I'm like, over here in Portland, where it's a little safer because New York is crazy, and so he checked up on me.
I was going to say something about what you said, which is really important. And a lot of people might miss this, is that your energy and your attitude uh, is reflective of how you view people. So, like, if I can say that right again, it's like
Yeah,
your own view, your own love for yourself, your own security in yourself, your own love for self helps you to also love people and view people in a way that is secure. It's like, like I feel like he's my friend, even if you don't, you know what I mean?
I mean,
Like
I found
I like we're cool, like and that's a security of self. That's important because that energy that you give off is infectious, and so a lot of us don't realize that our energy has to be checked, our emotion has to be checked when we're trying to connect with people, because it really does not matter so much about your words. Words are so small of a fraction of what people are really taking in, and we have to start understanding that on a deep level, because the relationships that you're building are years in the making, and
yeah,
and it's so easy to break those relationships. And so it's a skill, because people think about trust, how easily trust can be broken, but how hard it is to be gained. And this is why relationships and developing really solid emotional intelligence, and what I call cultural emotional intelligence, the intersection between cultural ethnicity and emotional intelligence, is so important. As I've done so many studies on the value of emotional intelligence, it is the number one people skill that you
Yeah.
need to be successful. There was research done by Travis Bradbury, emotional intelligence expert, and he found that um, that it is the highest predictor of success among all job categories at all levels. So emotional intelligence, your ability to um, regulate your own emotions, to connect with others and read their emotions, understanding how to motivate yourself when you don't feel like it, using your emotions to basically further your goals. And that is the skill that we all need to be able to master so that we can get to the next level. And for professionals of color, we need cultural emotional intelligence. We don't just need the self-awareness. We also need cultural awareness and an understanding of the social environment around us, because if we play by the same rules that our white counterparts play with, we will always fall short. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to really instill that and have people understand that that is how we can, that's one area where we need to start growing, and so we can succeed. So I know that's a long segue,
No,
um,
absolutely.
but how has people skill, how has interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, how has that played a part in your success?
Oh, I mean, I think that's um, 100% played a role. It's one of the biggest reasons I'm where I'm at. I do what I do, and I'm able to, be on a larger platform now. And I always say, like, I treat people the same way I treat all, like, everybody the same. So, like, it doesn't matter if you made $1 million or you making $2. Like, we still people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna talk to you the way I was gonna talk to my brother and my mama and everybody else in the room. And so I think sometimes it normalizes people when you start working with individuals that maybe make a lot of money, or they're celebrities, or they're so used to everybody just getting all giddy and wanting to be around and do all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I didn't want to take a picture, and I really want to ask you about this. And you look hot. Take your jacket off. And so I talk to them the same way. And I
Right,
think
right,
it got some bears. They're like, oh, okay, that's just Mo. Okay, Mo.
right,
You
right.
know. So I think I do. To answer your question, I think it plays a large just part in my life and how I live my life, and how I've been able to navigate really the roles of people. Did I answer your question? Did I go off on a tangent? What?
Well, a little bit, but
Bring me back. Bring
you
me
did
back.
say that that you treat people, you don't lessen your your energy and your effort to connect with people um
There you go.
based off of who they are. Like you're not gonna treat Common like royalty, and you're not gonna treat the dude off the street like a bum. You're
Absolutely.
going to give people the effort and the energy and the emotion that they require. That good energy. So that's important, because if you're building relationships and you don't see people in the right light, you'll treat them exactly like how you feel about them. And if you treat
Yeah.
everybody with that good attitude and that good expression, that good energy, then you're gonna build like relationships, and you're
Yeah.
going to rule the world. That's what.
Good relations. I kind of guess short story. So I recently did an event in Portland, and it was private, so
Mhm.
people didn't really know nothing about it. But uh, the Blazers had played the Bucks, and recently we had just come back from Milwaukee, working directly with the Bucks inside of Racine Correctional Institution. So we had been with them for days and doing an event. So anyways, they play Portland. So they're like, oh, you in our town, like you in my city. So we created I wouldn't call it an after party, but kind of an after game
Event.
dinner event, whatever you want to call it, right? For them. And so we lined it up, and it's like, it's bougie. It's like we're at this restaurant, we got the music going, and we shout out to DJ OG1 because he came through for you, girl. I had to call, oh, like, I need a DJ, come on. And I mean, last minute, leave the game, come on, we need you. And So we create this environment that, you know, we think really is amazing for NBA players, right? They want this and they want that. And we invited some of our friends to make it more of a social atmosphere. And, you know, it's going well, like everything's fine. And then it was like, we just want to hang out. And I'm like, well, what, if you just want to hang out, like we can just go hang out. Like what, you know, what do you want to do? Everybody's so normal. Like people think in their mind that there's this like level that you need to be at because somebody makes more money than you or they have more access to stuff than you, but they're all the same. And I was like, well, okay, well, we're going to go down the street to my little hole in the wall nightclub that ain't but this big. And so we called them like, hey, we coming through. I need this. And we partied and danced all night with each other and had the best time ever. And they're kids. Like when you start thinking of like all of these athletes and stuff, and not all of them, but right, some of them are really young.
They're like
So
21.
I'm like, huh?
21 and 22. Yeah.
I ain't gonna say their names, but like I ain't gonna tell you who was doing what. But I'm looking like, oh, this is like my little brother. So I had to be like, I had to treat him like my little brother. Like, come on, come on. We don't do that.
Right.
That's not a good decision. And they look up, okay, Mo. Like, and they they just, if you do that, people accept you for who you are. I was like, who told you that was a good idea? That's a terrible idea. And they were like, okay. You know, and so you gotta take care of them just like I'm gonna take care of anybody else, regardless of because you got more money. So, you know, quick story, but we were able to go out and just have a great time. And at the end of the day, some of them was like, oh, that's not good. Come on. You just gotta bring them back down.
Because people want to feel normal. People want to,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes, you know, when you get more status, sometimes people forget that, and you seem like you're ready to you can bring them back down to earth.
And maybe they don't forget. I think we as like people forget. It's like, oh no, they're just people, right? You know, I don't gotta impress you. I'm gonna wear the same T-shirt I got on tomorrow.
So I want to move. I want to move towards this. Just a few more questions here. What are you learning about yourself right now? Like, what are you learning about Mo right now?
Oh, that I am learning that. Well, I'm learning to have more patience. I'm learning to work at a higher level of excellence that I had never known before. Meaning, take more time when I read through something, right? Like I move really fast. I talk really fast. I move really fast. I make things happen. But I had to pause and really, like when I'm reading an email or I'm working on an event, I got to really pay attention to what they're asking and what I'm giving back so that it's so it's done right the first time. Because when you start to work at a higher level or you work with people that operate on a higher level, there's no this everyday like back and forth dialogue that you may have had at your last job and it was like okay to be like, oh, let me fix that, isn't necessarily okay because now people are spending more money. They got less time and they're spending a lot more money. And so I have learned to pause, to pay attention more, and just to really work at a higher level. It's been it's been incredible. At first it was a challenge and I was like, oh, okay, let me figure this out. And so when I read something, to get it right the first time. And I think, and then that will add value to what you bring, and people will start to call you and ask you to consult more on different projects. So I'm working on some stuff in Oregon right now too. And I don't
want to cut you off here, but I want to talk about what you just said, which was you talked about slowing down and really focusing on being excellent in the moment, you know, and really taking time to see what's hidden behind the words, kind of, you know, like whether it's an email or whether it's like what is really being asked of me here based off of, you know, this person, and that it takes a little bit more intricacy, right? And it takes a little bit more planning and a little bit more thought is what I think I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add that recognizing whoever you work for or work with, really understanding how they work and operate is important as well. And everybody's a little different. And so kind of being a step ahead. So I would make a lot of mistakes, kind of, and they're not big mistakes, but just mistakes in the beginning where it'd be like, we need to print something, for instance, right? And they would be like, I need you to draft this, send this up so we can get this printed, or, fix this so I can get it printed. So I would fix it and then I would print it. And it was like, wait, I didn't approve it though. Like, I need you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do need it printed, but I need to approve that what you did, you know what I mean? There's
Mm-hmm.
another step involved. And I wasn't used to that, right? I was like, okay, you told me to do this, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to stop and think through and say, okay, there's another level of this that needs to happen. And before you send anything out, did you proofread it? Is it correct? Like, you get one chance in the world that I'm working in right now. I would say that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of chances. And so we just work at a really, really high level, a really detailed. So I learned to pay attention to more details, to pause, to really be excellent in a world that I thought I was, and clearly I had a lot of work to do, and humbly take that. So you don't take criticism as a negative. It's really to help you grow. And so once you can take that, right? Somebody say like, wrong, try that again. That wasn't right, and not get upset and be like, oh, but I did this and I did that, and I was like, take all that out. It was like, no, it was wrong. Now try it again. And it was like, okay, let me get it right.
And this goes back to self-image, because I talked to you earlier about the fact that you were able to, um, you know, look at yourself in a way that you didn't think about yourself to, um, I don't know how to explain it. You weren't so enamored with yourself that you're insecure. You have some security about yourself. You have a high self-image, and it allows you to take criticism, because people with a lower self-image, they take it as a personal attack rather than an opportunity to grow and develop. And what I was going to say is that within, your position where you're at right now, which is like, I'm learning to grow into a certain level of excellence, and before that, I noticed that, you realize that there's a certain level you were at before which you had mastered, and things were coming easier. And now there's another level of new information, a higher level or higher standard that you have to get to. And once you do this long enough, you're going to master that level. And then if you continue to grow your self-image, you can continue to grow who you are as a person, then you're going to realize, oh shoot, I'm just getting started. And that is the process of life, is just continuing to
That's
grow and
that
develop
change.
these levels of success. It yeah.
Yeah, that's when you're like, oh, I'm really in this. And we've grown as an agency that we're working together, that I work with, and we're working together on a lot of campaigns and projects and things. And in the beginning, we were doing great stuff, great work, and then you're like, I'm starting to master this. Oh, I got this. Oh, I know what they're about to ask, so I'm gonna be ready. I can do it at this level, and we're growing, and it's been incredible because we're kind of growing together in some of the areas.
Mm-hmm.
But I work for somebody who is a crazy detailed. She works at the highest level. I've never seen anybody like it before, and it's incredible. It's incredible to work for, to grow from, to. I mean, I love it. I love it. It pushes
Mm-hmm.
me
Mm-hmm.
in ways I've never been pushed before. So, but it pays off, right? So
That's
I love
important. That's important because we need other, as a high performing professional myself, I need others around me. I need coaches. I need advisors. I need mentors. I need other folks that are above me, in my same sphere, that are pushing me to become better. That where I was today is not okay tomorrow. And
it.
so that continual process of growth, if we're not fixed, then we're okay with falling down, and we're okay with making mistakes. And I think you said something before earlier, which was like, so we'll figure it out. You said you use
Perfect.
that, and that term, we'll figure it out, is an identity. We'll figure it. I will absolutely, you know, bust my butt, and fall
Yeah.
down and look stupid in front of you. But I won't continue to look stupid in front of you because of my value system and who I
Yeah.
am as a person. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, and for me, I'm okay with falling down. I'm okay with messing up. A lot of people are so stuck. They're so stuck in being perfect, and you'll never be perfect, but they're so stuck in being perfect that they can't even move. They're paralyzed by their own um, um, narcissism, almost like I have to do. It's not about you. It's about what you can do and your goal and your purpose and your bigger, your that divine purpose that's bigger than you. And once you can find that purpose, then it makes it easy. I can
Mm.
go out here and be stupid and fall down and whatever. I don't care. Like I say, look, I'm unapologetically black. I'm about black and brown people changing the world, succeeding, changing our social positioning, changing our mental positioning, understanding how to connect and really influence this world in the way that we know we can. And so
Yeah.
like when that comes from security in self, that comes from security in who we are and understanding our culture, all these different things. So I really commend you on the fact that you are willing to take the journey, because that's something that everybody is not willing to do.
Yeah, I would tell my advice for people would be to learn to take criticism gracefully, right? When it calls for it, right? So maybe it's something you need to check, but for the most part, learn to take criticism gracefully, meaning it's okay for somebody to tell you something and you just say, okay. You don't have to rebuttal. You don't have to give the reason why. You don't have to do any of those things. Like it's an okay, it's fine, and then to fix it, it's fine. And I think people will start to see like, oh, wow, okay. Like people will want to tell you more, right? I like, constructive criticism, and I have always been this way. And it always comes out wrong, but I would say conflict is good, and not conflict where we're like physically fighting, but conflict in where you're challenging me. I have a business partner for the last 16 years. And so I guess, I don't know if we talked about it really, but I have been I say one of the, because there's been a couple, but one of the only female promoters in Portland since I was 21, and I'm 37 now. So, and really the only one at a majority of that time. And so I work with men all the time. And I've had one business partner, and my business partner would be like, I'm like, I got this idea and this is great. And he was like, that is trash. There was no, I was like, dang,
Hey,
okay.
hold on. I put energy into this. It's not trash.
Like, throw that out, throw that away,
Can't,
start over.
can't see it yet. Yeah.
And so the conflict was good. It was great. Those were the moments that we grew and we got better. The
Mm.
fact that he was like, that idea is trash, we ain't doing that. Or I'm like, absolutely not. We were able to find a ground that enabled us to work at a higher level and to become
Mm.
better. Because if we were just pumping each other up all the time, we just doing the same old trash events, right? And so,
Iron sharpening iron. Yeah.
man,
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt that from him.
What I want to do, Mo, is I want to ask you a few more questions um, about, I want to ask you three quick questions. Okay. Um, what are you learning about being a Black woman now? I'm going to ask you about your three biggest challenges that you faced as a Black woman of color. And then I'm going to ask you what your three most challenging things that have been in your life as a high performing professional of color. So I'm gonna go through those three questions with you, but we'll start with this one. What are you learning about being a Black woman right now? What are you learning?
About being a Black woman, I am learning that Black women are the most beautiful people on this planet.
I can second
I'm
that.
learning, I mean, I say that just learning to accept who we are, because oftentimes being a woman and being a woman of color, like you're at such a disadvantage, and then you are been taught to not see yourself as beautiful, as equal, or as intelligent as the other people in the room. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just learning that that is not the case. And so that's been really powerful for me, understanding that, oh no, I got this. Like, I'm gonna show you guys. So I would say that that's what I'm learning as a Black woman. I'm learning that that really that I am just as intelligent and just as powerful as everybody else around me, and that understanding that because Black women have always been kind of seen in that negative light, that it is okay to shine all of your greatness. But I try to do it in a way that comes across really genuine and positive, and that allows people to receive it,
Right.
receive it well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are the three biggest challenges that you faced as a Black woman in your
Um,
professional career?
Professional to be taken seriously, to have a voice that is often overpowered by men,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to just to be shown, like, to be seen as equal.
Mm.
Yeah, I would say that's really really it. Yeah.
And then as a high performing professional of color, what have been the three biggest challenges for you at this point?
Uh, to get the job. So how do I get given the opportunity over these thousand white men, right? How do I stand out has been
Mm-hmm.
a challenge. How do I stand out in a way that is positive, that is confident, that shows my ability, that allows my excellence to shine through, would be one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
how do I navigate this world? Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many.
Well, we can keep it to three, but you said one was just standing out in this competitive market, on top of dealing with whiteness and the effects that has on how people view your skill set and how people view who you are. I mean, so many times I look at I have to even examine it in myself, but
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
what what is it about how we're thinking that keeps us from hiring Black people to do this and that, hiring brown people to do this and that, or higher levels of not just like manual labor. We already know we can do that. That's Anybody can do that. But like when we're trying to hire lawyers, or people to work on plans for our.
So the pool is smaller.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you this: when you start being like, I want to hire a Black lawyer, and I want to hire a Black doctor, and I want to hire a Black person to do this, that, and the other at this high level, guess what? Pick one of the five when you got one of 5,000 over here to pick from, right? So now the pool is smaller. And I will say that oftentimes it starts at a younger age. How do you get a child to want to be a doctor or a lawyer or somebody like that? They need to be able to see themselves reflected in those fields. And oftentimes they aren't, based on the history, right? You weren't allowed to read or write or work there or do that, and so they don't even see themselves in those positions to go to school to be educated to work in those fields. And so the pool is smaller. And then there's the stereotypes that come with it. Do they got an attitude? Do they take constructive criticism? Like, how do they take that? Are they skilled enough, right? Are we giving it to them just because they are a Black person, or do they know somebody, right? Like, a lot of times, I'll tell you, it's a lot of
I'm gonna say
politics.
something about that thing that you said, because I don't think there's anything wrong with just giving a job or something to somebody because they're Black. I have no, like, look, if I have the opportunity in my influence, I am going to hire, I am going to work, I am going to empower Black people through my influence. There's nothing wrong with that. White people have been doing that, and they still do that.
For years. For years, they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
cousins and
So,
everybody
so
else.
don't feel like, oh, I'm just hiring because they're Black. Yes, I am, and it's okay. But you want them to be Black and can do the job at a high
They can do
level,
the
or
job.
brown and can do the job at a high level,
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to say with that is that we might have to be more creative in our strategies in hiring, because the pool is not small everywhere. We just have to understand where these pools are, and they might be to where you have to contract out of state to bring somebody out here just to do that. And a lot of people don't want to take those extra steps, and we understand that it can be burdensome. But if us as a community, if us as a culture is going to survive, we're going to have to be extreme
Yeah.
Because
And don't be afraid to go find the company that is Black owned. I love supporting Black businesses. It's one of the things that I will always do, if I can, right? Like if
mm-hmm.
there's somebody to choose from, I want to go through them first. I need to make sure they can do the job,
Right.
right, at the level that I need them to do it. And if so, then absolutely, they're first on my list to do.
Right.
But
Right.
I would say to go back to what you said about being like a Black woman, and some of those barriers or stereotypes, I think, is how do you navigate not being seen as a sex symbol, or I worked in a world in radio where it was like everybody just wanted to, the women that worked around, a lot of them, they are the women that would come around, not the ones I necessarily worked with, but that would come around, wanted to just sleep with or mess with or be around because they're an athlete or they're an artist or they're somebody. So how do
Mm-hmm.
you stand out as a woman and a woman of color? That's not what you're about. And so that's been a big barrier of having to navigate. And I think as women, we have to navigate, but as Black women,
We
we have to
need to
navigate.
have a segment on that, on just that
I
topic.
need
Go
to take
ahead.
it seriously. I made a rule. I wouldn't date athletes or artists. That was like my thing. Absolutely not. So I never
But
dated athletes or artists.
we're gonna have to bring you back on the show and just talk about that aspect alone. Like how do you, as a Black woman, what standards do you need? What kind of things did you have to instill in order to navigate in these fields that you were in? But that's gonna be another show. But name the challenges that you said as a Black woman was being heard, your voice, right? You also talked about being seen as equal, and then also being seen to be able to do the job. I mean, these are just basic things. Like, what do you mean? Can I do the job? You hired me to do the job. I've been doing the job. Why can't I do it now when the stakes are getting higher?
But you're questioning my opinion about doing the job, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
you hired me for my marketing skills, or you hired me for my branding skills. So don't question me when I tell you this is how your brand needs to be.
Right, right.
Yeah, or
So,
just work together to find the solution. But yeah.
so I want to before I wrap up, um, before I wrap up, I want to make sure we hit the last question. What are the three biggest challenges that you face just in general right now? You talked about as a Black woman, but really right now, what are the three biggest challenges that you faced as a high performing professional of color? What are those?
Oh gosh, as a high profession.
Because you talk about the standards and the new things that you, what are those challenges and that next level of success that you're going to?
One of the challenges is how do we find our next client?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's based off referrals and the work that you do, and so it's coming, right? So we're not at a standstill at all, but it's a challenge in itself. Is how do you keep that momentum going, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and then how do you stay true to what it is you believe, and you got to make some decisions around that. So I live my life, I say, kind of the impact, right? And I really want to do impact and social impact work. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is okay for me to turn down some things if it's not true to what it is I want to do, or doesn't align with my values or my principles.
Mm.
So
That's heavy.
that can be a challenge, because people will be like, oh, you can do that, I need you to go do this. And it's like,
Not being being selective about the opportunities that you take. That is huge. That is a challenge, guys.
And that's a
Talk
challenge,
about that
right?
a little bit. Talk about that just for like a minute. Just talk about some of these, because there's struggle there, and if you don't have your principles laid out, you can be swept by the moment because you didn't plan out what was important to you. What are your core values? What will you accept? What won't you accept? Why will you accept it? Why won't you accept it? So what have you done, or what talk about that just a little bit.
The moment you say no is when you add value to yourself.
Mm,
Like, the moment you walk away from something that
okay.
somebody thinks you will say yes to, and you say, no, thank you, that doesn't align, or however you want to say that, it's like, oh, there's some value to her. Like, she ain't out here just selling and taking and doing everything.
Right.
And you start to grow. And but as when you start to perform on a high level, people do think it's about the money, and they do think it's like, well, why wouldn't you just want to go travel and do this and that? And oftentimes it's like that. You got to know who you are first, right? And you got to have your principles in place, and you got to have your values in place. Your family may play a part in what you will and won't allow, and stay true to that. The opportunities will come, and you don't have to take everything that's in front of you. So, write it down, pray about it, and, it'll fall in line. That's kind of
That's right.
how I see it.
So you talked about, being able to say no. You also talked about, getting a big client. What do you think the last one would be? What has been another challenge for you right now, professionally, and moving forward in success?
For me personally, the travel. So that's not like one that's like this big value one, but I think if you want to work at a really high level or with high level clients, or you have to be available.
Mm-hmm.
And so how you balance your home life and your work life is important. And you have to, it's kind of those principles and values, right? You got to find that balance. And so that can be a struggle, because when you do start to kind of move up that ladder, it's, I need you. And I'll give you an example. And the reason I'm so appreciative of my husband is because he understands where we're at in our careers right now, in both of our careers. And so we've talked that through first. But I remember being in LA, and I was going to, and this was recently, I was in LA for work. I was going to fly home for 1 week, and then I had to be in Chicago. And I land, and an hour into me landing in LA, it was like, oh no, I need you to be in Chicago the day after you leave LA. And I was like, I had to, meanings, if I was flying out on a Saturday, I needed to be in Chicago on a Sunday. And I originally was going to have a full week at home in between. And so I had to say, well, hold on. First of all, I'm not prepared for that weather, so I need to go home and pack because it's hot here and it's snowing in Chicago. So, I had to, call, and you have to adjust it and work through that. And my husband was like, you got to do what you got to do. We've talked this through. We understood that these things were going to happen. And so absolutely, like, go. And so I came home for less than 24 hours. I repacked a bag that was way different than the one I left in, and I was back on the road, and I was gone for another week. And so it just very, that part has been a struggle. I wouldn't even say it's a struggle. It's a blessing.
Well, the work-life balance that's important.
Yes, work-life balance is a struggle. This, I tell people also, be prepared for what you pray for. And I mean that because oftentimes people pray for all of these things, and you're not ready when they come. And then you want to say, hold on.
Right.
Are you ready? Like, do you prepare for what you pray for? And so I tell people all the time, no, I prayed to be here, so I got to go. Listen, what I'm not going to say no now. And so, yeah, work-life balance.
All right. Well, Mo, loved you on the show. You added so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to make sure that that we support you, that we continue to uplift high-performing professionals of color, Black women. So how do we support you? Where can we go to find you? What do we need to do right now?
You can support me 2 ways. One, go follow my Instagram, Monique Serrell, MoniqueSerrell. But the other is to hire me. I mean, I'm always looking for work. So I tell people I'm very busy, but at the same time, I'm also always looking for work. So meaning if you have an event that's coming up, or campaign, more campaigns, because I don't promote, meaning I don't bring people to your events anymore. But I can help plan something for you. Can't be a campaign and or a live event, virtual events. And so when I say plan, it's really production work. It is helping you navigate through what needs to be done, all of the details, preparing anything from briefing books to backstage management to all of the above. So I can do all of those things for you. So if you are looking to try to figure out how you put together this concert, I'm your person. Doesn't have to be music, but as an example.
Right. Support your girl, Monique Serrell Taylor. She's gonna look. We always talk about how we want to be woke. You can't be woke if you don't have action to what you do. So look, find her on Instagram, find her wherever you need to find her. If you or refer.
You can also email me. Should I give you guys my email address?
Go ahead. The email.
You can email me at several email addresses. I'll give you. You can email me at Monique MONIQUE 1126 at gmail.com. So Monique 1126 at gmail.com. And I'm happy just to answer any questions and put together some proposals for you. More recently, I've been building out bars. Just as a side note, so people that are having large events or galas or whatever it looks like, they need to hire a beverage company. We also do that on the back end. So we can come in and it could be a flat fee. It could be kind of however you want to design it out. But we will come in and not only bring in all of the items for you, we can staff it and run it and then take everything out as well. So
all right.
good stuff happening there.
All right. This is the People Man Talks podcast. It's Emanuel Solomon, the people man, and I'm out. Thank you, Monique.
Thank you, Emanuel. I appreciate you.
All right.